Okay.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of reinstate the key concepts from the previous modules that we had with Dr. Amy regarding the mitochondria, how they convert food into oxygen and energy called ATP that powers up our cellular activities. Basically, how much ATP we have kind of signifies how much energy we have, how it's made inside the mitochondria, and the average human cell contains around 1,000 to 2,000 mitochondria. And they are the cells, or they're the parts of our body that require the most energy. That would be the brain, the retina, the heart, and followed by the muscle cells. We lose
To put in here, Kat, just so you all have, so you guys have a framework, is that this is going to be a handout that a practitioner can give to a client. Does that make sense? Sorry about that.
Yeah, great. And how aging, we naturally lose mitochondrial efficiency, but when this inefficiency happens earlier than the normal aging process, we can't bounce back. 40% or 48%, oh, I need glasses, 46% under the population under 40 have early onset mitochondrial dysfunction. Our mitochondria affects our capacity for stress and whether we experience situations as overwhelming or non-overwhelming. And then other functions would be detoxification and cell signaling. Just some things that, this is just a small list of the kind of the toxins that could come into the body through the diet or through food or water. We want to avoid these to keep them functioning well. That would be trans fats, oxidized fats, high heated oils, things like that, vegetable oils, dairy, especially conventional dairy, gluten containing grains and processed gluten especially. Mercury from amalgams, obviously that's not food, but it's in your mouth. Pharmaceuticals, larger and long-lived fish like shark, swordfish, tuna, marlin, king mackerel, tilefish, and pike. Then we have organophosphates, herbicides and pesticides, insecticides, and those all target the brain and the nervous system tissue, the mitochondria. Heavily processed grains and sugar, especially high fructose corn syrup, alcohol, and molds in coffee, corn, alcohol, especially the nuts like peanuts and macadamia, grain-fed animal products, fluoride, also its impact on the thyroid. Leverage points. I kind of wanted to use, not kind of, I did want to use the same type of flow that Dr. Amy had on previous. Didn't want to confuse anybody or make things more, open to more questions. So wanted to keep that. Changed around the wording just a tad, and that would be the mitochondria are one of the leverage points that can give us the quickest win with some energy. And when we feel better, we do better. And even though it's temporary, a person can start to work with their chronic freeze state if they haven't been, or if they have been working on the trauma patterns and gotten stuck on their capacity for future change. We can help them by bringing in energy to the system just by supporting the mitochondria. Okay, so some easy ways, practical ways. I kind of wanted to do this in a two-step. Originally I had this big thing. I was going to make recipes and do colors and all that. And I just thought, I think Dr. Amy would want to kill me here. So I kept it simple. My motto for 2023. So wild caught Alaskan salmon, super easy as a slow roasted or gently pan-seared in fish stews, soups, or added to salads. And then I also wanted to mention cod, mackerel, and sardines, a smaller fish, obviously. Sea vegetables like nori, you can use them as a little wrap shell, sprinkle it on super salads or vegetables. And I also mentioned dulse, which can be toasted, hijiki, arame, wakame, and kelp. Avocado, a great substitute for mayonnaise, a garnish for eggs, scrambled in eggs and put on burgers, soups and salads stuffed with salmon, shrimp, or chicken, or mashed on top of toasted sweet potato slices, which is delicious. Almonds tossed into salads, add to cooked vegetables, rice dishes, porridge, or yogurt. You can grind them into flours for gluten-free or low-carb cooking. Also walnuts and seeds like flax, chia, hemp, pumpkin, and the respective butters or pastes. Olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, only when cooking over medium heat, as it will become oxidized if cooked at a high temperature. Used to top vegetables and salad dressings, or as a final touch to any dish. Spinach. You're going to get more antioxidants from cooked spinach than raw. Trying a drizzle of olive oil infused with chopped garlic, or top of spinach salad with walnuts, pumpkin seeds, and berries. Blueberries and all berries, freeze them and add to smoothies, parfaits, salads, or on top of a porridge. Green tea, great hot or iced in smoothies. Poached pears and green tea with some ginger, cinnamon, and cardamom is great. Organic grass-fed meats, also buffalo, lamb, venison, and wild game, and soup, stews, cooked roasts, or ground and added to your favorite chili, meatloaf, and meat sauce recipes. You can also sneak in some chopped up organ meats inside those burgers with no one to recognize the flavor. Coconut MCT, also coconut products like coconut manna, shredded coconut, unsweetened coconut milk, or coconut water used in stir fries, on sweet potatoes or steamed vegetables, stirred in a porridge, added to smoothies. Broccoli and broccoli sprouts, simply prepared with your choice of fat, garlic, sea salt. All cruciferous vegetables like arugula, bok choy, broccoli, broccoli rabe, cabbage, cauliflower, collards, Brussels sprouts, that should be capitalized, kohlrabi, radish, turnip, there's a double there, so two things here. So the turnip and the turnip, oh, no, that's right, actually. That's right. Turnips, turnip greens. So that's correct. Turnips, turnip, and mustard greens. Yeah. So yeah, the Brussels, we can capitalize the B on that. And there would be also I think there's an apostrophe there. No, maybe not. Brussels sprouts. Anyway.
Sprouts, yeah.
Okay, so pomegranates, great as a garnish on a salad, nice sprinkled on a hummus or to flavor sauces and dressings, but also apples with these polyphenols, cherries, grapes, and mango are all winners there. And then a little bit more in depth for people, because there are people that like to cook. I mean, not everybody's just throws something in a pan. A lot of people like to do a little bit more. So I just added a little bit more flair in these recipes, just super simple. So simple roasted salmon, I won't go through the whole recipe, but it's basically chopped garlic added to herbs and olive oil, and you spoon the sauce over the salad over greens and squeeze on some lemon. Roasted seaweed, real easy, just toasting nori in the oven with some olive oil or avocado oil. Avocado mashed, guacamole, again, another simple one that people can use and omit whatever they can't eat. You know, some people can't have garlic or onions. Almond butter, real simple way to do this with just a Vitamix instead of going out and buying expensive almond butter. Just you roast them and bring out the flavor, and then you blend them with a little bit of salt. And then infused olive oil. This is also great for people that have like SIBO or are on a FODMAPs diet, where they can actually have garlic by just infusing it in the oil instead of using it, you know, chopped in a recipe. And you can always drizzle this at the last minute for people, but you can also infuse it further with lemon peels or herbs, spices, anything. So that's very helpful and usable. Steamed sauteed spinach. This is a great way to just prepare any vegetables kind of on the jiffy, on the fly, without really overheating your oils. I tended for a long time to do a lot of roasting, but I find this method gives you such a great flavor, and you just basically take some bone broth or stock or water, put it in a pan, put your vegetables in, add some salt, wait till they, come to nice color, remove the pan from the heat. The broth is evaporated and the flavor is inside the vegetables. And then when the pan is at a very low temperature, then you can add your fat and your garlic and spices or whatever you want. And then you kind of envelop those vegetables with the oil. Now you don't really need this for like spinach or maybe chard. For quick vegetables, you don't really need that. But for like cauliflower, broccoli, carrots, something like that, you can really have some nice flavors and not have to worry about your oils overheating. Mushrooms is a great way to do that too. Blueberry nice cream, peel and slice bananas. You spread them on a pan. Same thing with the blueberries, and then you just blend them in a food processor, and that really is yum. Matcha cacao smoothie. For those that can have some caffeine, I cannot. But when I used to, this was a fabulous smoothie, just adding matcha and at the last minute adding the cacao nibs, which is really great. Wonderful also with a little bit of coconut manna on top for the crunch. Buffalo and grass-fed meats, basically a real simple recipe for burgers. Coconut manna truffles. If you guys haven't had manna before, you got to try this recipe. It's pretty awesome. And it's just 2 things. You will never want to sweet any more in your life. I won't go on, but just, it's a wonderful dish or a wonderful treat. Cream of broccoli soup. Again, I won't go into every recipe, but it's just a blended mixture and pureed. Pomegranate salsa with some herbs and olive oil, lemon juice, and it's really wonderful with grilled or roasted meats or seafood. And then I just wanted to mention, powdered greens like spirulina or chlorella, which can be really great. And you can, throw those in smoothies. I don't like them in anything other than smoothies. I find that it really tastes strong, but it's a great way to add your greens and your sulfur and your sulforaphane. So good one on the spirulina. Yeah.
Thanks, Kat.
I got some recipes I got to try now.
Oh, me too.
That sounds so good. Thanks, Kat. I wonder, I haven't tried that coconut manna thing, so now I'm like, ooh.
It is so good, and it's really high in fiber. It tastes amazing. There's no sweetener in there, but it tastes like it's manna, food of the gods. It's just incredible. I used to make them when I worked at a retreat as a nutrition director, and people would just go crazy. And it's like 3 ingredients, like a 5-year-old can make them. Seriously, so good.
Sounds so delicious. Okay. Got some good ideas to play around with now, some new stuff. So that's always good. Okay. Dr. Amy, are you ready?
I am.
Okay, so just before Dr. Amy gets started, I'm just going to give an overview of what the training she's going to be doing. So this will be for the week 5 content. And so at this point, we will have gone through like the intake form, all the different assessment forms, brain inflammation, mitochondria, energy issues, immune system issues. And so now in week 5, we're kind of putting it all together in terms of like what is that final assessment, those final findings that we're coming to, also considering the labs, because we will have looked at that as well. And so really figuring out, what the lowest hanging fruits are and leverage points and things like that. So that's what we're going to be doing today. And you can take it away, Dr. Amy.
Question on your handout here.
Yep.
Is this going to just be for advanced
Yes.
professionals, not for the other tracks?
That's right. Yes.
Is there any reason why we wouldn't share it with the other tracks?
She's like, I want that. I mean, we could. It's a nice resource. It's a really nice resource for the mitochondrial, like how to bring.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like, is there any reason why we wouldn't?
We would just need to, if there's any wording in there that relates to like a practitioner client type, discussion or relationship, we would just need to change that kind of language and make it more for like, this is just a tool you can use for yourself in your kitchen and
I
boosting
don't
your
think there is any language like that. However, I was just curious about the statistic on there about the amount of mitochondria in retinal cells and brain cells. Can we get a clarification on that real quick? For some reason, it didn't sound right. Or look right, rather.
Let's see. Do you want to? Let me try sharing again. And if we go back up here.
Yeah.
So
On the third one, the average cell contains. That's right, right? Yeah. And then it just looks funny. The cells in the part of the body. Okay, yeah, that's right. So regular cells are about 1,000 to 2,000, and then the real specific ones in the nervous system have like 10,000. I think that's right.
Yeah. So yeah, that we could absolutely share it with the professional track as well.
With both of the tracks?
If you want to, yeah.
Again, like, would there be any reason why we shouldn't?
I think that we can absolutely share like some like are really like key enticing forms with a professional track, because that might entice them to want to take the advanced professional track. And it's helpful information, of course, right? Especially for someone, in particular Kat's handout, because it's something they can use themselves on their own healing journey and bring that into the kitchen. So I think it would be a great resource for them to have if we wanted to share it with them.
yeah, I mean, originally the idea was to have a resource for practitioners, because I think we often are like, these are all these great nutrients you can bring in, but here you go. And they don't know really how to do it well. So that was the idea, was to give a tool to a practitioner, but it could go both ways.
I've just thinking that it is such a good tool that you've put together, Kat, and instead of just thinking all the foods, it's quite inspiring of how to put it together, and it sounds so tasty and you want to do it. And just throwing out an idea, if you did want to even talk about it and share that as like a little, Kat's share on her mitochondrial kitchen, because the way you talk about it and the way you say all the words, it makes you start to want it. It's quite inspiring and it's really practical as well. So I just wanted to throw that out there too.
Thanks, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think that I'm up.
Yes.
Okay, let me pull together my stuff. Okay, so today what we need to look at is how we pull everything together from the different assessment forms, from their intake form, from their nervous system tracker, all of that. How do we collect all of what they've submitted to us and be able to look at it and start to identify what would be the driving causes for their symptoms. And by their symptoms, I really mean the primary state of their nervous system and what their main challenge is. And so as a big picture review of the biology of trauma framework and know where we are at the moment, we've recognized, for this client, we recognize the trauma patterns based on her assessment forms. And now we're really looking for, all right, so what would be the main underlying reasons? Because then that's going to lead us to identifying which repair tools we pull out first and which ones we say, yeah, these are important, but just not the most important, because we can only be selecting a few based on a person's level of overwhelm. And so as I look at what would be the main underlying reasons for someone's response as a big picture overview, this was her nervous system tracker. And so we kind of discovered as a result of this, as well as her intake form, that she's really fighting the freeze response. And so is in this chronic freeze. And that's where our focus needs to be, is identifying what are the underlying reasons for her chronic freeze state. At this point in her stage of the freeze state, she is able to pull herself out of that with stress, and she's able to get stuff done. Then she just crashes at the end of the day. And so as she were to progress with more time, you would see her being able to pull herself out of that freeze less and less, and it requiring more and more to do that, until finally one day she wouldn't be able to at all. And it would be all the way, all the time down here in the freeze response. And so when we look at where she's at in her process, what would be the main underlying reasons for that? Because that's going to be our, so again, looking at which tools we pull out. And so for that, we go to the assessment forms, and we have reviewed the assessment forms for this client. So we're not going to review them in detail. As a big picture review, let's just review her intake quickly to remind ourselves of the language that she uses and the issues, how she describes them, because this helps us identify what are those primary things that are what I call like the lowest hanging fruit. She feels tired most of the time, and it's painfully difficult to wake up. My mood is low, don't feel like myself. I have lots of brain fog, and I struggle to accomplish tasks. More and more health problems keep popping up. So just with that paragraph, what jumps out at me is brain inflammation. Brain inflammation is going to be a necessary element to bring into her initial protocol, because of the role that it's playing in her daily life. And then when I'm looking at this, I'm also seeing, yeah, like there is a lot of fatigue. It's not just, it doesn't seem like it's just the low energy, the collapse of a freeze response, especially when I see that she's experiencing more and more health problems over time. To me, that's a mitochondrial issue. That's an energy issue that over time, you're going to have more and more health problems popping up. So for me, just from this first paragraph, I'm seeing, I think that the energy protocol, if you want to call it that, the brain inflammation protocol, these are now top of my list, but let's look below. So, but here she's been dealing with the Hashimoto's hypothyroidism for 25 years. We can also see a lot of sleep problems, even though that seems to have fluctuated over time. But it also is important to realize that, yeah, if it's painfully difficult to wake up in the morning, it's very likely that she's not getting quality sleep. Certainly if she has brain inflammation, the quality of sleep both can be affected, but is also even more important. And so I'm already pushing up a sleep conversation in my list for those things, because even just to clear oxidative stress, to clear out inflammation, a system needs to be able to sleep well. And so sleep is becoming an important thing on my list. And she mentioned some other things that she's had in terms of the SIBO and Lyme's, but it doesn't seem like it's as driving the daily symptoms as much as the brain fog and the energy and the sleep. So I would be curious to see, more of, hey, does this Hashimoto seem to be playing a big active role, or does that seem to be on at least stable, steady, that it's not one of the issues that needs to be addressed immediately to bring in a ton of support for the immune system? Let me reiterate, it is, of course, very important to bring in support for the immune system when anybody has that, but it would be more in terms of, is that going to make it to our initial list, or is that going to be on the list of things that we need to come back to at some point, but let's start here, and here would maybe not include that immune system if that would overwhelm them. So let's look at the brain inflammation assessment. Let's look at the energy assessment, because again, what I'm looking for now is confirmation that those are really high problem areas for her that we need to focus in on. So I'm pulling up the energy assessment here. And what we see is just kind of a quick scan down the page. You see a lot of ones, which would basically mean yes, right? So the zeros here on this form mean no, haven't experienced that. One is yes. When it comes down to the medications, there's more no's, which is good. But in terms of the symptoms of a mitochondrial problem, she's got quite a lot of them. I am surprised here that she said that she does not have symptoms of chronic fatigue, because to me, what she describes is chronically fatigued. Again, that's why these assessment forms are never going to be perfect either, because it's their level of awareness and how they would phrase things, not necessarily how we would phrase things. So that's why you still take this and you work with it. So she says that she has autoimmune symptoms or disease, but on this, it doesn't indicate whether that's really truly active, out of control, uncontrolled, or how much influence that is. But we can see just how many ones that she is relating to here. Let's pop over to the brain inflammation assessment. And I don't think that I have on this one the completed assessment for this client. Knowing that she's got the brain fog as one of the symptoms that she puts on her intake form as several times, then for me, that already is a clue that she's got brain inflammation, even if she may not recognize that she has had a head injury or that we are aware of a priming event at this time. So looking at the immune system, let's look at that, because we want to see if that should make it on our priority list. So when I pull up that assessment, we can see that what she marks are things: hypothyroidism, long haul symptoms, latent viral infections. Oh, here she does mark chronic fatigue, leaky gut, food sensitivities. And then she's got the autoantibody lab results, allergies, chronic freeze pattern, the perfectionism, the loneliness. And then she marked these biochemical imbalances. So looking at this, the immune system, the gut, is definitely important. And I'm trying to now decide where on the level of importance should it be. I would be curious to see if she even knows her vitamin D levels, because from what she describes, I would guess that her vitamin D is very low. Maybe she just hasn't checked it. Let's look at the biochemical imbalances, because this can be driving a lot of those things. And when we look at the numbers, and I'm not sure that we have the numbers, but we know from this client that she has I believe that she has these biochemical imbalances. Marissa, correct me if I'm wrong. Did we?
Yes, she does. I can give you the numbers right now. So she does have undermethylation, excess free copper related to high oxidative stress, low ceruloplasmin type thing, borderline functional zinc deficiency, and we suspect pyroluria based on the symptoms because the lab didn't show. With undermethylation, her whole blood histamine is 80.
Mhm. Mhm. And her, I'm sorry, her copper to zinc ratio and copper excess was how much?
Copper to zinc ratio is 1.13, so that was normal. The total copper was 101, which was also normal, but the percentage of free copper was 33.
The percentage of copper was 33, and when we look at her labs, her zinc was also low, just under that normal functional range, which starts at 90, and hers was 89. So we would also include zinc deficiency in this. So especially with that copper excess and zinc deficiency, those are major drivers to the health symptoms. And especially with her experiencing that tiredness, she described some moodiness, but the tiredness and then some of that, again, even the autoimmune stuff, but some of the gut stuff, the copper is really going to affect that. So for me, that copper excess definitely is at the level of making top priority for what we should focus on. So in pulling all of that together, what I still want to know more from her when I actually meet with her is she having active autoimmune symptoms? Is she having joint pain? Is she experiencing active symptoms, or does that seem to be well controlled with what she's on at the moment? If that's well controlled, then I'm going to work with her to see what treatment plan feels manageable for her. And this is where it really is co-creating that plan together, so that they feel that it's a manageable plan for them. And then when I'm looking at, all right, what are the main low-hanging fruit for her? Be the brain inflammation, the energy, mitochondria, and then that copper excess. With the undermethylation, sometimes the copper excess can influence that a little bit. So the copper excess would be more important than the undermethylation. And in this case, I would probably bring in like 200 milligrams of SAMe just to kind of address the undermethylation, but have it on the back burner. For me, the primary drivers are going to be the brain inflammation, the mitochondria and energy, and then the copper excess. And we do that for a couple months, and then we reach a new baseline. And at that point, we do a reassessment of everything, her symptoms. I probably wouldn't do her labs yet at just a few months, but her symptoms should be at a new baseline. And that's what we use to then kind of recreate the treatment plan and move things up or down based on how she's feeling. But also at that point, she should be more comfortable and familiar with what we have implemented. And so it shouldn't be as big of a stress to then add new things on, because these things have just become habit, like they've just become part of her daily routine. And so we can bring more things on after a month, after 2 months, and it not overwhelm her, like if we were to do it all at the very beginning. So that's also the benefit of creating a plan for the first little bit and then waiting for that new baseline, and making sure that they've got a follow-up appointment so they don't feel like you've dropped them and that they don't have access to you. Having that plan of, no, we're following up, and these are the things that I'm going to want to talk to you about when we do follow up, because there are still more things that we need to work on. They're just on hold for right now, because these are the most important things that we think will make the biggest difference the fastest for you. Anything else, Marissa, that would be helpful for me to review? Any questions?
No, that was great. I think I'm just, I'm wondering if maybe you can speak a little bit about working like with the freeze response like maybe in a somatic way or something as they bring in some of these recommendations so that they don't feel overwhelmed? Like, because sometimes some people get so overwhelmed if I want to give them the brain inflammation and the mitochondrial protocol, like that's already overwhelming with the supplements, right? And so I know I can break that down into like, okay, let's start maybe with just brain inflammation for the first week or two, and then add in the energy supplements maybe a couple weeks later. And sometimes that's good enough, but for some people, like even that is a bit tricky because they're just so overwhelmed. So I'm wondering, like, do you have any suggestions about how to, or do we just take it even slower? Do we just go even slower with them? Like, what would you say?
So for me, the main difference between how I was trained and how I do it now is that, I was trained in that you give them a prescription and expect them to take your prescription. And now that prescription is done through the process of co-creating the plan with them. Because I know now that if I prescribe something that they're either not on board with, but they haven't had the guts to tell me, they don't agree with it, but haven't had the guts to tell me to my face, or it feels overwhelming, or they don't have the money, or they don't have the means to fulfill the prescription, they're not going to do it, but they're not going to tell me that they're not going to do it, right? Like they often will just put a smile on their face and say, thank you so much, and walk out the door and then never do it. So I do that completely different now. And what I say is, all right, here are the things that need to be done. Looking at this list, what would be an easy thing for you to implement? And I literally have them pick those things from the most important list so that they are creating their list based on their realities of their life and their other responsibilities that I don't know about. And so my role in it is to select those things that are the most important. And then from that list, they pull out those things that are very doable. And then it's almost like we kind of create together what that implementation would look like. Okay, so you're going to implement these things for the first 3 days, and then you're going to add in these things, and you're going to do that for 3 days, and then you're going to add in these things, so that by a certain time, they have added everything in that I feel is essential, but even that may not be all at once, all at the beginning. But they've been able to have that choice. And so much of working with someone through the lens of trauma is that empowerment piece. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'm showing you what things that you could do that would really make a difference. And then you are creating your own implementation plan that makes sense for you and your life and what you see would be the easiest things to start with. But as long as I have created that list of, all right, here are the most important things, to me, they can pick and choose which ones would be the easiest from that list to implement and at what pace they can implement the other things on that list, knowing that, and this is kind of what I tell them, right? Like the longer you take to implement all of this, the longer it's going to take for you to get change. And that way it really is still not me pushing anything on them, but them deciding, well, how fast do I want change? And I get to support them, whatever they choose, knowing that I've communicated to them everything that they need to be able to make those decisions. Like these, I've done the work to highlight the things that will make the most difference, but I can't do this for you. And so you tell me what you feel you could add and do in your life and how fast you could bring in the other things. Do we need to order things first? Like actually map it out, because when they walk away without a plan, that's when things fall through the cracks. And so even mapping out, well, I need to order these things first. Okay, so then those aren't things that we bring into the plan until week 2, because you're going to order them, but when are you going to order them? You need to order them today so that you have them next week. And all of those details actually need to go out on this plan that we co-create with them so that it is implementable, knowing that they have brain inflammation, so they can't always remember things. They need things written down to remember them. They are going to be probably a little disorganized. And so having as clear and a simple plan as possible that we co-create with them is really going to help set them up for success. And having that follow-up in place before they leave is helpful to maintain the container that we create for them to feel guided and led and not abandoned by us. And I think still really helpful to understand the bigger picture that, oh, we're not done. This was just this stuff. There's this whole other list that we haven't even touched yet. Got it. Okay. Yeah. We need to come back because we need to have another conversation about that stuff. Just not right now.
I think like for a lot of people, just this assessment piece of like sharing with them this assessment gives them an understanding about themselves that really puts things together for them. And for some people, it's just like such a relief to know like and understand like, wow, this is just what's happening in my system, in my biology. Like I'm not all crazy or whatever, or, you know, I'm not making this all up, right? Because a lot of other specialists or professionals might have dismissed some of their symptoms or, you know, not put it together in the way that the biology of trauma kind of puts that all together for them in that integrative, you know, assessment. And so just this assessment and sharing just the assessment, never mind like the actual plan yet, can be such gold for the client to have that understanding of themselves and where they're at in their health and what they can do, what they can start working on to get better.
That's also really why we want to focus on their symptoms rather than their diagnosis. Because to me, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I'm not looking for a diagnosis. It's not even crossing my mind. I want to know what are the symptoms that you're having in your daily life, because all of my recommendations are going to help with those symptoms.
I really love how you just like highlight you know, what are some of those leverage points and lowest hanging fruits and tie that back in with some of their chief concerns and give them a quick win, because that really helps to establish like that working relationship with them. And then they'll want to keep coming back and want to keep working on things, right? Especially if they have a quick win right at the beginning. So I think like that piece itself is just so important to think about when you are making an assessment and then trying to figure out what repair tools to bring in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys.
So, some clients are going to need, you know, a bit more hand holding than others, aren't they? And
Totally.
and giving them the option of, you know, having more access more frequently to you is maybe something that you can gauge in that initial consultation as to, you know, what one person needs is going to be different from another.
Yes, but that's also why I asked them. So I asked them the question, what level of support from me would be helpful for you?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you know, they can have trust issues and they can think that, oh, you know, you're just wanting me to come back so that you get more money. Okay.
So that let them decide. That's good. Yeah.
You tell me what level of support would be helpful for you to feel successful, setting yourself up for success. I'm not going to tell you how often to come back and see me. I'm going to tell you maybe how often I think that we should touch base because we've got this other work to do. But what level of support would you like to have from me to help you be successful with this?
So we can set out, you know, some sort of a plan that takes them through to sort of 2-month point, but then giving them the option of having more support along, you know, within that time if they feel they need it. But we're
Yes.
giving them the tools to be able to go away and do it themselves for that first period of 2 months. Yeah.
But if that's not helpful for them, I mean, we have had some people who want to come back every single month, even if they have nothing new to report.
Mhm.
And that's the level of support that they want from us. Okay,
Mhm.
we're happy to give that to them. We're not going to be the ones to say, no, I really think that you should be able to do this on your own, right? No. Now, if we see them getting derailed and self-sabotaging themselves and not getting anywhere, then that's when we need to have that conversation of, hey, what's going on? Has this been a pattern for you in your life? Because we don't want this to continue to be a pattern that plays out here. We want you to be successful. We want to see change in your life. So what can we do differently to set you up for success here? Would meeting more regularly help you stay on track? Help you hold yourself accountable, or whatever words that may resonate with them?
I really like how you're like really emphasizing the empowerment as well, because it can be so easy to get into practitioner, patient, I know what's wrong, do this. They need to come to see, you know, someone to help them. They, you know, like, so it's just a subtle thing to keep threading in there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Very handy, very useful, empowering. And then I was thinking as well, even when they're choosing how frequently they need the support, that is them supporting themselves by reaching out and getting the support.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it's very much a partnership. It's, you know, you're not fixing them, you know, it's just re-emphasizing that it's them doing, you know, their journey, and you're guiding, supporting.
Mhm. Yep. Yeah, it's a partnership that empowers them, where I am providing them resources and support, but I'm not doing the work for them. And I'm not imposing my values, my way of doing things on them. They have their parts and their experience.
Mm.
And I'm not going to pretend to even understand the complexities of them yet. I don't know them well enough yet.
And I love, Dr. Amy, how even like when we've sent out recommendations, even our language there has been consider. This is a recommendation. This is a map. It's a guide. So even that, like even they've left the appointment, but they come back to the same thought process that, so they're not like, I have to, right? So they can choose. I love that.
Yeah, because that's seriously what happens over in the medical field, right? Like we call that medical non-compliance, and patients get in trouble and they are labeled as non-compliant. I personally am a non-compliant patient.
Right
Yes,
there.
I have been prescribed things that I have never taken. I am non-compliant. And that's a terrible word to be labeled with, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, that's not who I want to be. You misunderstand me if you think I am non-compliant. I never bought into this. I was never aligned with this. So don't call me non-compliant.
Compliant also takes away the empowerment, doesn't it? It's like,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally.
Mm.
There's no choice in the matter. You're prescribed something, you have to do it. And if not, then you're labeled as non-compliant.
And it keeps the doctor up there knowing everything and the patient down here helpless. And
Totally. Right. And
Yeah.
so much of what we teach starting in the 21-day journey is that you have to become the expert in your own body. No one else can be the expert on your body. You can have mentors, you can have guides, you can have resources, you can support yourself. But that even with those things, it doesn't take away that you are the expert of your body. That's why you have to learn how to track your own system. Because that's the only way that you can really know if something is helping you or hurting you. If you're relying on someone else to know how to track your system, that's never going to go well. Because we don't live with you.
Yeah.
What I'm seeing is what I get in these however many minutes that I'm with you. That's not tracking your system all day long, like you need to be doing.
I can't even imagine my doctor asking me to track symptoms. Like, I just can't.
Very,
There's no time for that.
There's no time. There's no time. And there's no interest.
Mhm.
Mhm. It's a very different model, a very different approach.
Yeah, I remember being in a hospital room with my son, and because I was non-compliant, they brought in the entire floor of doctors and still like to pressure. Like
Yep.
it was intense.
Yep.
But you know what? They don't have to live with the consequences. So that's kind of always that's my mantra.
Mhm.
Right? They
That's
don't.
right.
Yeah.
You go home and you live your life, and they go back to their life. And I came to that conclusion as well when I had my babies, and everyone telling me what to do. I'm like, nope, I go home and whatever happens, it's up to me.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think it's easier, and I use that term really, really carefully, to step into that when you become a mom. Because it seems like your instincts to protect your babies are brought up, whereas when we're called to do that for ourselves, that's been squashed for so long that people have lost the instinct to take that level of ownership and protection for their own body rather than for their kids. So for those people who are moms or parents, like that's a great analogy to bring in of, well, what would you do for your child? Because they can feel those instincts more sometimes than what they can feel it for themselves.
Yeah.
For certain.
Yeah, I call it the mama bear instincts. There's
Yeah,
a
I was thinking. Yeah, it can be intense.
Very primal.
it's
It
very
is.
primal.
Yeah.
And to squash that takes a lot of energy, but it can be squashed. And I have seen many moms who have squashed that instinct.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if you're used to like, you take this baby and you're used to doing what the doctor tells you, and so thus far the consequences haven't been negative for you, then why wouldn't you, right? And so, yeah.
I see this a lot in certain cultures. Like
Mm.
I see it a lot more in the Hispanic culture. I see it a lot more in the Black culture, where they seem to have lost some of their sense of empowerment over decision making, and they do see the expert as the expert.
Yes, that's true.
So I do see certain cultures
Mm.
as
Well, there
still.
in one way, it's a great like respect for these people and their place. I mean, and so I mean that's how they view it. Because I remember as a teacher, like the Latino students that I worked with, the respect from the parents was so much higher for the teacher, but it's the same thing for the doctor or the counselor, or so there's some gift in it, but then you're right. I think it gets squelched.
Yep. Mhm. So
I wonder a little bit with the whole like mama bear thing you're talking about, is that is it kind of the, you know, the having children that can almost awaken your own system to, you know, the fact that you're, you know, you maybe were in the free state, and you know, because you're having these feelings and these strong emotions, you're kind of yeah, I don't know, it's kind of waking you up to that different state of your nervous system that you weren't recognizing before, and you can act almost in that state for your children,
Mhm.
even though you're not living in it always in your own.
You have a reason to stay in fight or flight.
Yeah, yeah, it's bringing you out of that sort of trauma state because you're feeling so much. Yeah, I don't know, just made me think of that.
What a good conversation. Well, we'll have time to talk more about some of these too when we do our training for the last week, week 6, which we'll do next week with Dr. Amy. So thank you. And for the rest of today, we've got some more training to get through. So before we get to handouts, what I really want to touch on for today is a couple of things. So the implementation meeting, I want to make sure that we are prepared for our first implementation meeting, which will be on Wednesday next week. And so I have, I know that it looks like most of you have filled out the coverage sheet there to put your names in. So that looks like we've got good coverage for most of those weeks. So thank you. It is PST. So just in case anyone needs to go back and double check those times.
I get confused every time. I'm so sorry, but would you be able to write that in it so that next time I have my brain inflammation thing happen, I'm just like, I can't remember. America has so many different time zones. Then I can, because I have turned up to meetings at wrong times as well. And I know it's the same every single week, but we have like, daylight savings and things that change everything quite often too. So I do regularly check.
Yeah,
but I sometimes check with the wrong time zone. So
absolutely. I will add that. A little reminder for all of us. Yeah, it's a good point. So what I wanted to say is that I just want to talk about the structure and the format of the implementation meetings themselves. So the somatic session will be first, and the somatic session is actually combined with both the professional level participants as well as the advanced professional. So everyone's going to be in there. It has a different link, and our implementation meeting have a different link. So what really is happening is that the professional level will have their study session at, let's say, so let's see, on Wednesday, the somatic session is at 8:30 a.m. PST. So the study session for the professional level starts at 8 a.m. PST. At 8:30 is the somatic session. So they start off with a study session and end with a somatic session. We start off with a somatic session and end with an implementation meeting. So if any of you want to attend the study session, you absolutely can, right? Like if you feel like you need that, you can join in at 8 a.m., do the study session for, the content itself of the professional level, especially with the redesign. So if that's helpful for you, the somatic session is at 8:30. The implementation meeting starts at 9 with a different Zoom link, right? So the somatic session will run about 20 to 25 minutes. So everyone will have about 5 to 10 minutes to just kind of settle, regroup, take a quick bathroom break, and then come back for the implementation meeting, which will start at 9 a.m. PST. And having said that, if for any reason you can't make it to the somatic session, like that is okay. You can still jump in on at 9 a.m. for the implementation meeting, right? The somatic session will be just really great for your benefit, of course, but the implementation is the one where we need you to actually actively mentor. So the format for the implementation meeting, hey, let me share my screen so I can walk you through some of these things. I will post this if, so let me just move this down. in our Mighty Networks mastery level program, I will have, okay, so this section is just like general things that apply for basically all of the modules, regardless of its freeze or attachment or whatever, right? This is just where all the mentor hours will go. This is stuff that is helpful for preparation purposes. And I've added the little red exclamation mark for the ones that are actually going to be part of the professional and advanced professional level content. You don't have to have all of them watched before, the module starts. It's here for you as a reference, but also for you to access in advance if you do have time, if you do want to look at these things, okay? So it's as you're able to, and if you're not able to get through all of them, that's okay, because you will be going through them as you go through the actual advanced module. But it is here in advance if you want to look at those things. This will be what I'll probably do once the module actually starts is I'll probably move this section up a little bit so it's easier to access and move this section down. But this is the section that you'll most likely be referring to the most as a mentor. Okay, so in here, we've got obviously we've got the dates that are part of your syllabus, but all of the dates for the somatic sessions, the implementation meetings, the final presentation meetings, the Q&As. We also have the implementation meeting coverage schedule, this guy, right? So if you need to refer to that or check that, then it's here. We also have the case study documents that Dr. Amy was using for training purposes. So they are here for your reference if you needed them, but you will have them in Kajabi as of Sunday. The overview for each week. This was just each week. This is what we're doing in each week, a quick overview for your reference. And then what will happen is I'm going to start making each of these weeks visible. So what will be in here is anything we need to know for week 1, which is next week. And that kind of stuff. I'm going to add to this our implementation meeting questions. And so in here, we have the format, and it's very similar to what we did for the attachment module, for those of you who were part of the attachment module. The implementation portion of our meeting is going to be around 40 to 45 minutes tops. And so whoever is leading the session for that day, what would be good to do is I really want to have a format because I want the participants who are coming to feel consistent, right? And I want them to feel like that they've got a good structure, that they feel contained. And, I want to, just like Dr. Amy creates in her sessions, she's got a good format going, and that helps everybody to feel contained and safe in the space, right? So I want to create that as well with our meetings. So this is why there's a format here. It's okay to deviate from it slightly, but this is in general the format to follow. So for approximately 2 minutes, it's just a quick welcome to the meeting. We introduce the mentors who are present in that meeting, who are leading the breakout sessions. A brief review of what the main questions are going to be that we are going to be discussing. We break out into the rooms for 30 minutes. We come back to the main room for about 10 minutes for sharing of main insights, right? Because I just find that there's so many great little tips in each of the breakout room discussions that it's just so great to share some of those tips back in the main room, especially if there was anything really wow, that's gold. When everyone comes back to the main room, we take attendance by asking everyone to put their name in the chat. Now, the VA, the assistant who will be running these meetings, she should already put it into the chat and put the request for the attendance. Okay, so that should happen, and you probably shouldn't have to worry about it too much, but just to be aware, if for whatever reason that doesn't happen, you can request everyone to do that. The VA will also be the one to break everyone out into 30 minutes. You just need to let her know when you're ready to break it out. Ideally, we want to have at least 6 participants in each breakout room. So in some cases, there may be more mentors than are necessary, right? So in some cases, you might have 2 mentors in a breakout room, because if there's less than 6 people in a breakout room, I just don't find the conversations to be as stimulating, as, you know, as great, right? It just doesn't seem to be as great. There can definitely be more than 6. I think between 6 and 12 seems to be a good number in general. But what I'm saying is that in case that there are mentors present and there's not enough participants, then you might be in a room with 1 mentor. And then what you could do is just one of you lead. Or if you really feel like you both want to contribute, that would be fine too. But we can take turns, and one person can lead and one person can just kind of participate, right? So that's the general format. Just like,
Can I
yeah,
ask you, with that, I know that can be a little awkward because you jump in the room and then someone starts leading. And so do we have like I don't know, maybe just whoever wants to start talking or whatever. I know Marissa and I have stepped back during those times to let you guys lead. So we'll probably
that's a good
still do
point.
that, right?
If we are in a breakout room with one of you guys, Becky and I would absolutely take a step back, just automatically assume we're participating and you guys are leading, okay? But if you are in a breakout room with just another mentor, that's where you guys just need to quickly decide who's going to lead. You know, you can just quickly talk about it quickly in the room, and then make that decision and then go from there. Because sometimes it just happens on the spot, right? Like that's the challenge with these live sessions, is we never know how many people are going to show up in the morning or afternoon sessions. It's just who shows up, right? I find that there seems to be like a trend. It seems like most of the people who go to the morning sessions always go to the morning sessions, and same thing for the afternoon sessions. And last time in the attachment module, like both sessions were relatively balanced in terms of number of people showing up. But we don't know what that's going to look like for this module. So we just have to be a bit prepared. We have the implementation meeting questions already complete for our first session, and also for our second session on January 18th. We are working on the other ones, so you will see that it says in progress. Don't worry, it will be complete by the time you need them. But you can look ahead at this document if you like. The first session, everything here is good to go. Basically, for the first session, I'm hoping that people will have done the preparatory training. Preparatory training is what we did. You guys have already done it. It's the little training that we did in the attachment module that goes for every single module. So for every single module, there's this one little class about how to recognize trauma patterns in someone else. And we only look at the nervous system tracker sheet. Dr. Amy already walked us through this entire training when we were preparing for the attachment module. So you guys have already gone through this, but basically this is what I'm hoping people will be able to at least take a look at before they come to the implementation meeting for Wednesday. And so hopefully they will have had a chance to look at that. However, I'm not expecting that everyone will have had a chance to look at this training or do the deepening exercise for this particular, for this client. And the deepening exercise, I'll give you access to this document as well. The deepening exercise is just looking at that nervous system tracker sheet. So just so you're aware, because this is a preparatory class, the nervous system tracker sheet that Dr. Amy walks someone through is just a sample client X, okay? Like it's not going to be Jane or Kathy, who are the clients that we're using for this freeze module. Kathy is the client that Dr. Amy has been working through, and Jane will be the client that everyone's going to use for their deepening exercises, okay? So this is just client X and client Y. So the sample nervous system tracker sheet for the deepening exercise is just client Y. It's not necessarily specific for freeze or anything like that. And so we have some deepening questions for that, which is just really work through that nervous system tracker sheet and start thinking about how you recognize patterns in someone else's nervous system, right? And so there is a chance for a discussion on that if people have done that. If not, then we really just want to have people share who they are and what they hope to get out of this program, what the challenges of addressing freeze and overwhelm could be based on what they know at this stage, and what the benefits of addressing freeze and overwhelm, bringing that work into their practice, how would that benefit or improve their practice? There's some backup questions as well. So if let's say you get stuck and people maybe aren't talking too much, you can absolutely refer to these backup questions. And then there's also some questions that relate more to somatic insights. Dr. Amy will have done her somatic session on Monday. So we could always refer to that, right? Like, what are any insights or discoveries or challenges that might come up for you as you are doing this week's somatic exercise, right? Like as a practitioner, or maybe even how they see bringing that into their work with clients. So we can always defer to that as well, right? So we've got quite a number of questions here for you to refer to, but absolutely, like, the most important ones are the main points, which will be common ideally for everyone to hopefully be discussing, but every breakout room conversation can go in totally different directions. And that's just where you as a mentor either make sure that it's still relevant to the main discussion points for that week, and not go completely off on a tangent. And if it is going completely off on a tangent, then I do expect you to bring it back, but also have freedom to go into different parts, different discussions that are not necessarily on here, but are still very relevant to the topics, to that week's topic. Does that make sense? Yeah. So with that, I hope you will feel quite confident and prepared to lead your breakout room discussions. And for the most part, in the evening sessions, so Becky and I, for the attachment module, were the main people leading, like opening up the meeting and leading like that main room discussion. However, for the freeze module, it would be great to have you guys also start doing that as well, right? So that it's not always Becky or me. Part of the reason I really want to encourage that is because whoever's in the main room, that is going to be recorded, and that's going to be what's in Kajabi. And I really want the students who are watching recordings to be able to kind of participate with different mentors and participate in different discussions. And it's not always, the same group or the same mentor that they're listening to in the recordings. And I also want you guys to get that experience, right? This is what the mentorship, part of it is, not only just the breakout room discussions, but, leading that main room discussion as well. So I will do, the morning session, just say everybody started for next week. And then after that, when we have mentor hours, we can talk about it. But after that, I'd love to create some kind of rotation where everybody can kind of start rotating around through that. Okay. So we'll talk about that more, I guess, in next week's mentor hours. But I just want to let you know, that is the intention, right? So that you get that experience. And let's see, so that format, questions, deepening exercises, both of these documents I'm going to post to here. And let me just see if there's anything else that I wanted to share about that. Any questions about any of that right now?
Is everyone doing this module for the advanced practitioner? Have they done the attachment? Is that the requirement? Like it goes from one, or they can just go into anyone?
No. So let me share my screen. The requirement is 3 modules. So not everyone who has done. So let me go back up. So here, mentoring the advanced professional program, prerequisites. this shows you which are the prerequisites for each of the modules. So for the freeze, it's brain, energy, and immune. So we might have some of the same participants who did attachment, but we might not. And attachment is not a prerequisite for the biology of freeze and overwhelm. So I'm not sure, you know, who's going to be in there. But there are three different modules that are a prerequisite in order to take the biology of freeze and overwhelm. And this is a good point, like even for you guys as mentors, I know most of you want to mentor like pretty much all of the modules, which is absolutely great, but I just want to make sure that you guys are also aware of these prerequisites and that you guys also have the prerequisites needed so that you can mentor the modules, right? So if anyone doesn't have any of these prerequisites, reach out to me and let me know. And we can always arrange for you to do like one of the self-study for for a module that you might be missing if you are missing anything. Okay. So yeah, they don't need to do attachment. There might be many people in the biology of freeze who have not done the attachment. So we'll see what we get. Okay.
Melissa, can I ask you something?
Yes.
So I imagine the 2 new modules will come after that segment there in the second segment. Is that how it's going to go?
Yes.
The 2 new modules?
Yes.
After, yeah.
Yeah.
Not after everything, after those first 5 or 6.
First 4. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And then also about the somatic exercises, are we to figure that out amongst each one another, or?
No, so thank you for asking that. So because the somatic exercises are going to be with a separate link and it's going to be both professional and advanced professional participants able to join, that has all been organized by the THA team. They have somatic mentors already scheduled to lead all of those sessions. So we don't have to worry about any of that part of it.
Okay, awesome, great.
Yeah. And Kat, I just wanted I know. Kat, I just wanted to check in with you, like for next week's implementation meeting, are you okay if you lead the one in the afternoon or?
I think I'm doing all the afternoons, right?
Well, we were just talking about how eventually I want all the mentors to kind of rotate through leading the main room. But for next week's meeting, I'm going to be on the morning session and I'm going to lead that because it's the first one.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if you feel comfortable to lead the one in the afternoon for the first one on Wednesday.
I think I'm signed up for that now.
You are, but I mean, like, are you okay to like lead the welcome and the main room?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because the last time I attended both morning and afternoon sessions, because it was the first
Right.
module, the first implementation meetings, and I just wanted to be there to welcome everyone and start everyone off. And so I did that for both. But if I know you led a lot of the sessions last for the attachment module. So if you feel good with that, then.
And so how about the rest of all, like, how do we figure out who's going to open up the show there?
Yeah, so we'll talk about that more in next week's mentor hours. We'll come up with some kind of system where we can start rotating, but just for the purposes of the very first one next week on Wednesday, I just want to at least know who's leading the morning and the afternoon session. So if you're good with that, then I will leave that to you and I will do the morning session in the morning.
Okay.
Awesome. Awesome. So I think that's everything I wanted to review in terms of the implementation meetings. Is there anything else that you guys feel that you need? There's one other thing I want to mention about the implementation meetings, and I'm not sure if everyone saw it, but let me bring it up on my screen. I have put here, where is it? Here. Okay, So in this section, mentoring the advanced professional, I have a training here on implementation meetings. And basically this is just me leading one of the attachment sessions in our module last time. And it's just a training exercise where I would like for you to watch this and just briefly critique it. Because I feel like I just want to make sure that everybody is really, going to be on the same page in terms of for the format, but also the goal of the implementation meeting and how to do it and how to lead it. So if you could do that, and where you could, post your thoughts, just your thoughts on it. I know, because the other reason I would like everyone to do this is because I know not everyone, I usually was only at the morning meeting is what I'm trying to say, right? And not all of you were always at the morning meeting, and not all of you had that chance to really see how I was leading those implementation meetings. And so this is my way to make sure you guys all have a chance to see an example of how those implementation meetings are led. And so if you could at least watch it, share your thoughts, any critiques, any, anything that you noticed, insights, whatever, you can share that and just put it in the feed. You can put it in the feed. I think I gave, mentor training, hashtag mentor training. If you could use that hashtag in the feed, hashtag mentor training, put it in the feed, put in your thoughts after you watch that, and share it with everyone. Because again, like, it's just, I think it's helpful to see like what some people's insights or thoughts or critiques might have been, because then it helps all of us improve, right? And I'm by no means perfect. And I welcome, any of your thoughts or critiques as well, because I'm always looking to improve as well. And like I said, I'm really hoping that we can just, emulate that same kind of safe container, that safe space that Dr. Amy does, right? So when I'm leading these meetings, I'm literally channeling my inner Dr. Amy, right? As best as I can. I do not profess to be a Dr. Amy, but I'm channeling my inner Dr. Amy as best as I can. Okay.
Marissa, can we also add that sometimes there's like little tweaks or announcements that might change along the way? So just to be sure and check the mentor, the Mighty Networks. And then will Jonah be doing both the morning and the evening?
Yes.
So Jonah is our assistant. So if you need to ask her to do anything, her name is Jonah. But that might be helpful. And it's helpful just to check before, especially if you're leading at that day, to just go check and see if there's any modifications or Dr. Amy is showing up by surprise or anything like that, so that you're kind of prepared. It's helpful to do that and have that. And you did that. You did those things, I believe, in Mighty Networks last time.
Yeah, very good point. And I will do that. So Mighty Networks, our mastery program, will be like our hub, especially to communicate, especially any updates or last minute things, anything that came up after, let's say, that weekly email that I usually send out, I'll post them in there. So good point, Becky. Check that platform before the implementation meetings in case there's anything new that that I want you guys to be aware of. Yeah, Jonah already has instructions that each group should have at least 6 participants, and evenly as possible, break that out depending on how many mentors are there. But in case, you need to like double check with her or revise her, how she's breaking things out, please feel free to let her know. You can give her an instruction as to, let's just keep it to 3 breakout rooms today and keep me in the main breakout room. Like, you can literally just let her know and she'll do that. Okay.
And you can do that in the chat.
You can do in the chat. And if you can't do it in the chat,
or you could just say it out.
Say it. Yeah. So she's there to support you. Okay. All right.
So really the only thing different on the implementation kind of way we go through it is that we just don't introduce the somatic
Yeah.
thing, somatic exercise, and the practitioner that's doing it, and everything else is the same.
Pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. One last thing I want to share. I know we're at time, but I really want to share this because it's so good. This is going to be part of our advanced level content. And so I've put it here. Although technically it probably is not a general thing, it probably should belong in the freeze. But anyway, I just got this video of Dr. Amy literally walking someone through an acute freeze response. And so we are able to use this video in, I think it's going to go into week 1 content. If we can make it go into week 1 content, that is our goal. We're trying to get it into week 1 content. And it's such a great video. It's not very long. I really want all of you to watch it before the implementation meeting on Monday. The reason I want you to watch it is because Dr. Amy was sharing with me how just by talking about the freeze, people can go into the freeze, right? Like I didn't see much of it happening when we were doing attachment because most people in the breakout room discussions were not thinking about themselves. They were thinking about their clients. They were thinking about their practices, right? And they were a lot of times eager to share what they were working on, what their deepening exercises, their thoughts, things like that. So they weren't really thinking about their own trauma and their own healing journey. So I wasn't noticing a lot of people going into the freeze in our breakout sessions, but you just never know. And since the topic of this particular module is the freeze, and we're going to be talking about the freeze, it's possible that someone in your breakout room discussions might actually go into the freeze, like in the moment, on the spot. And so if you happen to notice it as a mentor and you happen to notice someone's gone into the freeze, you very much can support them and walk them through the freeze if you feel like that's appropriate, if you feel like they need a little bit of support. It's great practice, right? Like it's great practice for everyone in the group, even if that takes up the entire breakout room discussion. And now it's all become this whole thing about walking someone through a freeze response. If the person accepts your offer to help them, right, then that's okay too, because it's great experience for everyone, I think. So you can definitely offer, if you see someone go into the freeze, if you see someone struggling, if you see someone is like collapsing, then you can definitely say like, you know, what's going on, kind of just what Dr. Amy is doing right here in this video. Nonetheless, even if it doesn't tend to happen in your breakout room discussions, this is still going to be part of the advanced content, because as professionals, this video will absolutely, the tools in this video will absolutely be useful in your private practices when you're working with clients and they go into the freeze, as you know, you're talking with them. So I just wanted to highlight that, because what we really want to do is, you know, I've highlighted some of the important points here, you know, normalizing the client's experience, helping them with a somatic exercise to disconnect the fear, flow with that process and just ride the wave. And most importantly, as a practitioner or as a mentor, you know, bringing in whatever tools that you need to keep yourself regulated so that you don't go into the freeze because they've gone into the freeze, right? Because that's what happens. You see someone go into the freeze and the next thing you know, you've gone into the freeze, right? So making sure that you've got whatever tools that you need at the ready, right? Like at implementation meetings, I literally have like my acupressure mat on the floor. I've got like pillows nearby, and not just because of the somatic exercise, like Becky's got her weighted blanket, you know, like not because of the somatic exercise that we do at the beginning. Yes, it's there for that purpose too, but it's also there for me to grab in the moment if I feel myself getting triggered or dysregulated or something for whatever reason. Like I have my tools around me to help me stay regulated and present so that I can be as effective as I can be as a mentor leading that discussion.
I think too, like if we break out in the breakout room that first time, is just to remind, you know, you can have a quick conversation about really encouraging them to take care of themselves and really be paying attention to what's going on because of the freeze, right? Because we're going to be having these conversations. So setting them up to not go in the freeze if possible. Yeah.
Good point. Absolutely. Yes.
This is the one that was taken last module, and we didn't have the gallery one, right? It was just the one-on-one. No, it wasn't. It was just Dr. Amy speaking. We didn't get to see the other person. Isn't that right?
There was one where that happened. This
Okay.
one, we actually get to see the other person for part of it. There's also part of it where the other person is kind of just in a ball and you don't really see anything anyway. But Dr. Amy just keeps kind of talking through. And so you are able to kind of see, like, she's still able to inform us about what's going on and what she's seeing, even if we aren't seeing that. But for most of it, we actually get to see the other person. And if it's possible, if we can find it, we are looking for the audio version of the one that you're talking about, Kat. We're looking for the audio version, and if we can find it, we're going to have the audio version of that also as part of the content for the advanced professionals, so people can at least listen to it and get both of them, both audio and this video clip.
How come we can't? Is it privacy issues that we can't get the other one for the visual?
It just didn't get recorded that way. It was a setting thing.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So at least we have this one, and even the audio one, because Dr. Amy verbalizes a lot of what was happening, even though it didn't get recorded in a way that we're able to see the other person, we can still follow along with that process. But at least this one, we get to see the other person for most of it. And so it's still very helpful, very useful. So I would definitely love for you to watch both that implementation meeting of me and this video as well before next week's implementation meeting, so that you guys are prepared. I just want to see if there's anything else I wanted to say about this video with Dr. Amy. No, pretty much that's it. That's what I wanted to say. So I know we're already a little over time, so we won't have any more time to go through other handouts today. But any other questions before next week? And feel free to, reach out on Mighty Networks. I check in there often as well. So if anything else comes up, just let me know. Just before I go, I do want to ask, now that I have shown you, it reminded me of something. I'm going to share my screen very, very quickly, and then I will let you go. When we are looking at this, right, it reminded me, and I know most of you have said that you are intending on mentoring, all the modules again. I'm wondering, does that mean you guys are all interested in mentoring the attachment module again? T says yes. Awesome. Thank you, T.
Possibly for me.
Possibly for me. I'm in the same boat as you, Diane.
Possibly. Okay. Awesome. Thank you for letting me know.
So with that, we would just be doing the implementation meetings because we've done all of the rest of it before, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, we may make a few little tweaks, but
Yeah, we might make some.
and then we'll let you know what that is, but I don't think it's going to be a lot. I don't think it's going to be big changes.
We're hoping not to make too many changes to it, but there might be some updates. So we will see. And of course, if there's any updates, regardless if you mentored or not, you will all get the updates no matter what, right? But I'm just trying to get my numbers straight for how many people will be able to and interested in mentoring for the attachment module. So that I just wanted to double check with you guys and find out what you guys were thinking. So thanks for letting me know. And yeah, that's it for today. I'm so excited for this module.
Yeah, we've done so much preparation. I'm thinking it's kind of good that we've had the holiday time to go through everything you've been giving us. But I'm wondering with the modules after this one, is there going to be as much preparation? Because I don't think we're going to have as much time to do all of that prep. What are you thinking with that?
Yeah, there will be overlap. That's unavoidable. The good thing is with the attachment module, since you guys were all present for it, you're all there, and there will hopefully only be minor updates. And by updates, I mean tweaking mostly, right? Like it's not going to be anything new. It's just going to be tweaking of things, right?
Yeah.
So there's not going to be anything new. There's not going to be new content for you guys. So that will be an opportunity to kind of like either take a little bit of a breather and then, also be able to prepare without having as much overlap for that next module after attachment, right? So we won't have to do as much training for attachment. So there'll be a little bit of it'll serve a little bit as a grace period in a way, not a full grace period, but it'll be a lot easier to prepare for the module after attachment because we've all been through attachment already is what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
When we start preparing for the next module after freeze, like the biology of grief and heart shocks, there will be overlap. Like we will still be in the freeze module itself, but I'm going to start training for grief and heart shocks while the freeze module is still running because there's no way for me to avoid that. So I'm going to figure out as best as I can to make it as smooth as possible for you guys. But this is also why like we really wanted to deliver all of the information for this freeze module as quickly as we could. And basically you have almost all of it except for week 6, maybe a piece of week 5, and week 6 we're going to be covering next week, right? So hopefully by next week you will have seen everything that is the freeze module, not in the order, right, the sequence, but you've seen it all. So hopefully it won't be, too dysregulating to start the next module's training, even though this freeze module is still running.
Yeah, we'll be starting to prepare that within the next week and a half or so. I mean, after next week, we're starting the next module and developing it. So, but you're right, Diana, it's going to be a couple months that are going to be a little tense, or a little tight, right? A little bit, just a little, hopefully. And then it should settle.
Yeah, like if we look at this diagram again, right? Like you guys have now seen, except for week 6, which we'll do next week, everything that's part of this, right? So even though it's still running and you'll still be running the implementation meetings and stuff like that, at least you'll be familiar with the content itself, right? And then we will need to start training for this before this module is over, but then attachment comes. And so we've already been through it all. So we'll be able to start training for this module while attachment is running, and it hopefully won't be too overwhelming because we've already done attachment, right? So
yeah, I see. It's really just the module 2 that there'll be that cramming a lot into a overlap, but yeah, I see what you're saying. There'll be more space with the next ones.
Yeah.
And I mean, the benefit, I guess, is that, remember, like the last one, we were like, we don't know which week we're in because which topic are we talking about? I think it'll be really clear because we'll be talking about a totally different module. So
yeah,
that'll help, or maybe that'll be more confusing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Can we get that mitochondrial handout that Kat made? I want to start making some of that food.
I can share it. I can share it with you all.
Yeah. We'll share it with you. Yeah.
Start with the coconut nana.
Oh, that
Googled it
sounds so
already.
good.
I know you guys are going to flip out. It's so good. But it's so simple that it's not even a recipe. You just like put it together.
I even like the one with the poached fruit and the green tea. I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so good. Why didn't I think of that before?
Yeah, I'm loving it. It's perfect, Kat. It's perfect.
Good. Oh, good.
Yeah, that was exactly what we were looking for. So
Yeah.
thank you.
It's perfect.
Thank you.
Because
Thanks
it's
for letting me know.
not
'cause,
overwhelming. It's easy
Yeah.
to grab onto, Yeah.
It's so foundational as well. Like we eat every day and we talk about all these vitamins and things. So how can we get it in with our food and enjoy it?
And there are
Absolutely.
more foods that support the mitochondria, but I just didn't want to add any more that Dr. Amy didn't put on there. I know what she
Yeah.
was trying to do. I mean, she knows the foods. It's just, you don't want to overwhelm.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. So good. Okay, I'll let you guys go. Next
much,
week, we've
Marissa.
got Dr. Amy for our last training,
Bye.
and then we'll do more handouts and hopefully finish off most of the freeze module at that point.
T, do
Thank
you
you.
have 1 minute? Can I ask you a question real quick? Does we stay on? Okay.
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 All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you. Do you need me to
Becky,
stay on or
I don't, well, would you just, do you just
how do
change
I make you?
host? I've never
Oh.
done it